McCullough.
Hey everyone, sorry I got the camera off. It's a little hectic around here these days, but yeah, I think there's struggles with referees calling physicality both offensively and defensively. I think perhaps in the female game, we're all a little more familiar with, you know, the net front battles, the pinning along the wall, the angling and steering. I found that since we started emphasizing physicality when you have the puck, drive skating, you know, owning your space, there's been some challenges of maybe the defensive player not being ready for that, and our attacking players, you know, drive skating with the puck and sends the girl flying. And sometimes the officials are like, what just happened there? Like it's sort of a new, I wouldn't say new, but still relatively rare skill to be emphasized or used in the female game. And so sometimes the referees are unsure of whether that's a call or not a call. And, you know, some of our more physically eager players, you know, certainly use that to their advantage and essentially look like they're body checking someone when they're carrying the puck down the ice. So, you know, I know for us, we've put it into our, you know, our fundamental five. So physicality is there with skating, passing, shooting, and puck control. And it is, you know, weighted, you know, relatively equally. We would argue skating is weighted more heavily than anything else. I think, you know, to Hal's point, teaching physicality sometimes feels like expensive. And I mean that to say, like, when you know, I've coached for 15 years, when you spend 15 minutes teaching shooting and everyone's standing around, you feel like you're kind of wasting the ice a bit. And obviously there's different ways to do it off the ice. But as a minor hockey coach who maybe doesn't have the resources or the know-how to teach it, it feels like, oh, we're going to stand against the wall and learn how to lean onto our edges here. You know, I know here in Toronto, you know, ice time $7 a minute. So it starts to feel like you're wasting a little bit of everyone's time and efforts. But I think, you know, being able to safely protect yourself when you've got the puck is essential. Yeah, yes, it drives offense, but it also keeps people safe. I think it also, you know, has a big impact on, you know, concussions and awareness on the ice, like being heads up. But I also think the physicality in terms of pinning and how to defend is not taught well either. And that's a sentiment I hear a lot from college hockey coaches, you know, having coached junior and midget for a long time. You know, the question is often, do you have any Ds that can actually defend? It's a very common question you get, like Ds who actually understand, you know, how to own space, manipulate space, manage space when they don't have the puck. So I wonder if, you know, all these highlight reels we watch on Instagram and of, you know, guys with the puck, women with the puck doing amazing things. And obviously, like, you know, moving someone from the front of the net's not nearly as exciting. But I think there's a craft to that, and it's not taught enough on the female side. And so they shy away from contact defensively and offensively. And so I think those are just some things that, you know, coaches need to be empowered to do on the female side more, because as they move up to higher levels, especially if they are defensemen or centers, I mean, their ability to be physically effective without the puck is going to be really critical. And it's wingers too to recover pucks. So yeah, we've made it an emphasis here, and, you know, it still has a long way to go, and we've emphasized it in terms of with the puck simply because it will give us an advantage, because it's not expected. And it will allow our teams and our players to have some offensive success, but certainly need to address it more on the defensive side of the puck too. One thing we have done, Wally, or we're going to do for next year, which is a suggestion or a thought, we have a couple coaches in our organization who are also refs, and they're going to come and do some like education sessions with the coaches, like about calls and about communicating with the refs, and kind of like get on our level sort of thing. Like we're all together in this. And I think to the 15 years I've coached, like that, I've never done that before. I've never had a session where I sat down, like other than me just talking to a rep. So we're going to do that kind of on an association wide level, and have some simple handouts or resources for coaches. So you can't say you didn't know, or, oh, I yelled at the ref, or, I guess expectations in terms of how we behave and what we do, both good and bad in those situations. So I'll be interested to see what kind of impact that has. I think we've planned to have 2 of those types of education sessions. But thinking back on my own coaching career, I sure could have used a little bit more education on how to deal with some of those things. So we'll see how it impacts on a large scale.
Are you a course conductor for the certification programs?
Me? No, not at D1.
Because everything you've said is covered. Everything you've talked about for 20 years is covered in the checking modules put together by Hockey Canada. There's a pyramid of respect. Officials are talking about it, and we used to have official clinics going on at the same time as coaches clinics. So we're reinventing the wheel in our conversation. Formally, the certification programs do spend time on it.
Well, I took D1 a long time ago, so it's not that it's never been hit on, but I think it's, and maybe on an association level, to actually just sit down with the ref and almost like what we're doing here. Hey, I keep having this issue that's coming up, or 6 of us have had this thing, and how to kind of being able to troubleshoot it, as well as some key principles or things that we want to address. And the physicality one, again, there's the how to physically do it in the moment, right? How do I pin someone? How do I get stick on puck, body on body? But then the bridge is, how do you actually do that in a practice? You understand how to do a wrist shot, but how do you get 17 of them doing a wrist shot in drills that flow, and those types of things, right? So I think it's I'm sure if I ask most of our coaches of the what, how do you pin someone in the corner, probably at least they'd probably get it 60 to 70% right? How are you going to teach that when you've got 15 kids and you got the goalie coach at the other end, and you have your breakout to work on and a bunch of other things, right? And maybe I think that's a bit of the secret sauce here with everything, is having those types of plans to say, okay, if we're working on pins, how do we get from A in that curriculum to being able to do it in a one-on-one battle where practice is going to end, or that small area 3-on-3 game where practice is going to end? How do you take them through that, right? Because you can watch all the videos you want on how to shoot a snapshot, but if you can't get it through in traffic on a 2-on-1 type of, I think they suffer with the game application, right? There's still a very big split between pure skill and pure system, and there's a huge middle, and I think that's where the majority of our coaches, at least, struggle. They're fine if they have to run a breakout drill, and they're fine if it's pure skill repetition, but that huge middle, and unfortunately, they just don't teach any of it. Then they don't teach conceptual hockey because they don't understand how to teach conceptual hockey, and then the girls don't understand. That to me is hockey IQ. They don't understand how to apply those skills and to solve problems in game situations. They just know, okay, coach told me how to pivot on the breakout and have my stick on the ice, and I know what our breakout is supposed to be, and that's all their work on the breakout. There's no, look over my shoulder, see if the D is pinching. Do I pop to the middle because of decision making? I think, and that side is that messy middle that we need to do a lot better of a job of teaching people how to put it all together.
I'm curious down the road here. One of the problems is the NHL playoffs are going on, and everybody's watching them, particularly on the guys' side. And Tom's concerned with the physicality. And Tom, you're a Flames fan, and they seem to draw the line pretty well with what they can and can't do in the NHL. And they're going to be a pretty physical team that I think will meet any challenge physically, and fighting is going to be a part of that challenge in the playoffs. I'm really intrigued about how the playoffs are going to go in terms of transitioning from pure hockey during the year. It's similar to the female game. There's very little hitting. There's good stick on puck checking. There is some finishing of checks for the purpose of getting a puck. But in the playoffs, the line is higher. The degree of force is higher. The intent is more obviously physicality, and checks are going to be finished, and penalties aren't going to be called. And that affects the guys' side of the game, kids growing up and wanting to get drafted, wanting to play in the NHL. It's a distraction in terms of figuring out how to play, how to coach them to play. So I'm moving forward with the NHL playoffs beginning. At some point, I'd like to spend some time talking about the physicality question and the line in terms of which teams appear to be peak performing in the playoffs relative to the playoff game compared to the normal seasonal games.